topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Houston. Welcome to another Ask the Experts, where for the last 16 years, we have brought you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. It's amazing. Our shows on community association across the country always do so well. And we have actually had a lot of people ask us, why aren't you doing something on condo and HOA laws? And we just really didn't have an opening. We finally got an opening about 6 months ago, and we found the top community association law firm in Houston with Lang and Associates. I don't know if is Shannon on yet. Yeah, there she is.
Hello, we're having technical problems.
Good morning. Hey, you know what, Shannon? We do a live show, and everybody says, why don't you just do a tape show so you can edit it? I love live. So whatever happens, happens. But all I know is you're there. It's so good to see you. I was just telling everybody how important it is to have a firm like yours that helps these associations, because it's almost like running a major corporation.
It really is. I mean, some of our clients have multi-million-dollar budgets. Others have only a few $1,000s, and they have to very carefully use them. So yeah, I mean, these are all very professional businesses when they're being run correctly.
Well, tell people about Lang and Associates. You've built up such a great practice, Shannon.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we've worked really hard to create a very consumer client-friendly firm. I come from a big law traditional background, but I started my own firm about 10 years ago, started getting into HOA and condo work, and we've just grown organically. What we hear from our clients is that the thing that brings people to us is, one, we answer the phone. Anyone who calls here is not going to be stuck in a phone tree or talking to receptionists and never getting through to someone who can answer their questions. We answer the phone, and we work very hard to keep people in their homes. A lot of the work that HOA attorneys do is collecting assessments. And the end result of that, when you don't pay your assessments, is foreclosure. And we are very proud of the fact that despite managing or representing communities spanning thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of homes, we only foreclose maybe 3-4 times a year. We do everything we can to keep people in their homes, to maintain stability in our client communities, and to treat every interaction with a homeowner or with the board as an opportunity to build a relationship, understand their problems, and solve them. We're very proud to be problem solvers, not problem creators.
Shannon, the other day when we were promoting your show, I went to a seminar that one of our community association firms in Florida, and they do a seminar, and they actually invite people to come in with their questions, and they answer the questions. Now, most of these were residents, and I watched a gentleman who didn't really want to be there. He had one question, but that one question ended up turning into like 8 questions. And I thought about this because we got a letter from a listener saying, you know what, one of your shows should be like a round table of community association board members and yourself. And If we could ever do that, I would even extend it to the entire 50 minutes. I think that would be an incredible, because people have so many questions in your area.
They really do. And that's something that we offer to management companies. We've gone into management companies here in town and just been available to the staff to answer questions in an open forum. And we've got really positive feedback from that. The managers have questions too. And a lot of times they work for, like I said, some of these communities that have for them, they want to get these questions answered, but their clients can't afford to pay to have an attorney do it. A lot of my competitors won't do anything without money, but we consider it part of our marketing and just part of good community stewardship and service. And so we love doing that, and I'd happily host an open forum with community members and board members.
Oh, I think that would make for a great show. When I say community association, tell people what all about Lang and Associates.
Sure. We're a small Houston-based firm. I started this firm about 10 years ago when I decided to leave kind of the structure and the differences of a big law firm. And I wanted to work more in the community and have more of a direct connection with clients as opposed to talking to in-house counsel who answer to boards of directors and shareholders. Through some friends and connections, we started getting law. Now it constitutes about 80% of our practice. But I continue to maintain a litigation practice, which is notable because, like I said, a lot of HOA work is just collecting assessments, but a lot of it is real litigation. HOAs get sued all the time. They, unfortunately, often by homeowners. They often have vendor disputes and, other things that require someone to stand in front of a judge and a jury and present a case. And where we think we really stand apart is in the fact that I actually do that. I'm trying a case next week. We're comfortable in front of the judges and juries. We know how to put a case together. We know the rules. And we have a practical sense as well, where I can say, yes, HOA board, you might be right. But in this environment, in this jury pool with this judge, it won't matter if you're right. And so we think really carefully about the best way to solve a problem and spend money. My goal is never to present a course of option or promote a course of conduct that's going to make me money. We make plenty of money just being good lawyers and being good stewards for our clients. We want to do something that solves a problem. And so sometimes that means that you have to give up a little bit and not go to the mats, because going to the mats means you're likely to lose. And unfortunately, juries have a really viscerally negative reaction to HOAs in a lot of places, and that impacts what we do. So when we talk to potential clients, we tell them, we have a practical approach to solving problems. And because we go to court, we don't just sit in an office and push out debt collection letters. We really can help your business grow and succeed.
Here in Florida, it's been made a big deal about Zooming meetings. Do you have that same thing in Houston?
We do. And, in the beginning, when COVID first hit, there was a lot of pushback to Zoom, and in pockets that has continued. But I will say that with time, people have really perfected how Zoom meetings are held. And I have found across the board that participation goes way up. We hear all the time from our clients that nobody participates. No one runs for the board. Nobody cares. And, that's often true. But I think one of the issues is that for a lot of folks, especially folks in deed restricted communities, a meeting held on a Wednesday night at 7 is not a meeting they can go to, because at 7 o'clock, they're feeding the kids and getting them bathed and putting them to bed. But when you're able to log on Zoom and listen to it while you're feeding the kids and bathing them, you can participate. You can be a more active member of your community. And we feel that when members are able to really see what it means to have an HOA and run an HOA, they're more likely to want to volunteer. So I like Zoom. We often with our clients suggest that Zoom meetings be conducted, but that we couple that with in-person town halls or social events, because it is also important for people to meet each other and to meet their board members and to know who's leading them. But I'm a fan of Zoom. We've really manage to make it work. It also cuts way down on disruptions in communities that have those handful of constant disruptors.
Shannon, I wanted to bring this up for the show. It's so funny because we get a lot of the letters from people and, always complaining. Don't rarely get one that is saying satisfactory about the board members. But I got to tell you, I don't understand why more people don't run for their boards, where they could make a difference. And I get a lot of letters, people say we have a hard time getting people to run for the boards. Do you agree with that more people should run for their board?
Absolutely. I would love to see more involvement. I mean, in my own HOA, we can't get people to run for the board, so I'm on the board there because no one else will do it. And I think a lot of it is that homeowners don't understand what's involved, so they're intimidated by it. And I think they also believe that the time commitment is going to be really excessive. And, generally, I would say that just isn't the case. If you've got good management and a good law firm and good vendors supporting your association, but particularly good management, your role as a board member should take a couple hours a month to cast votes, to attend a meeting. Board members don't need specialized skills. You don't need to be an accountant or in construction. You just need to have an interest in your community and an ability to put aside your personal interests for the betterment of the association overall. Because what we find is that board members tend to be in a few categories. There's the group of very earnest folks who really do want to make their communities better. We love them. There's the folks that have an axe to grind and think being on the board is going to further their personal interests, and that's where we have struggles. And so we love seeing more people step up and understanding what's really going on and being a part of it and spreading to the community that the HOA isn't evil, that it isn't doing bad things to hurt people, but that it's really dedicated and focused on improving the quality of life and property values for the entire community.
Well, I want to bring this up, Shannon, because someone wrote a letter in, and you kind of just answered it, but they want to know what kind of background do you need to run for the board?
Right. I mean, none. If anyone says, what does it take to run for the board? What we generally say is it takes a few hours of time a month, and it takes your actual interest in contributing to your community. That's it. You don't need to have specialized knowledge or expertise. If you do, that's great. But we don't want you to be the association's accountant. We don't want you to be the association's lawyer or contractor. We want you to be the decision maker who can look at the vendors that are available to you and make good decisions. So really, we look for someone with good judgment. Most people think they have good judgment, and frankly, we find most people do. And what's helpful is that you know within yourself that you can manage differences of opinion well. You're not always going to be on the winning side of an argument or a vote, and your ability to just roll with that is really helpful for board membership. To be like, look, I preferred this landscaper. I lost that vote, but I'm going to support the board overall because that's my role as a board member. That to me is the most important quality we look for in a member of the board.
We got a letter from somebody wanting to know, they live in a townhouse and they want to know what rules apply to a townhouse owner. Are they different?
It depends. We get this question all the time. A townhouse is just a style of architecture. The question is whether you're in a subdivision or in a condominium. Those are the two big categories that really exist in Texas. There's also some if you've got commercial properties, but for the most part, those are subdivisions as well. So are you a subdivision, meaning that you own your townhouse from foundation to roof? You're responsible generally for all of it. You're responsible for insuring it, repairing it, maintaining it. Or is your townhouse, which basically just means a tall structure with shared walls generally, part of a condominium, meaning that you own from the interior surfaces in, and the association is responsible for maintaining those structures. Here in Texas, and especially in Houston, we have townhomes that are condos and we have townhomes that are subdivisions. I live in a townhome that's a subdivision. Many of my clients are in townhomes that are condos. So the way you would know is, one, you can look at your documents, your governing documents for the association, or two, you can look at your deed. If you're in a condo, you're going to own a unit and an undivided interest in the property overall. If you see that language where you own unit 101 and 0.27% undivided interest, then you're in a condominium. In that case, the rules are very, very different than if you're in a subdivision. Your assessments are going to be much higher than if you're in a subdivision, but the services you get for that money is much different than when you're in a subdivision. You should think of condo assessments as kind of a savings account for the day that everyone needs a roof and you pay with everyone else for that roof, as opposed to a subdivision where you buy your own roof. And when that time comes, I hope you have the money.
Shannon, does Houston have many high rises?
We do. Yep. Those are going to be condominiums.
So
we've got a lot of
I'm curious, did the laws change at all? The rules change at all in Houston? You know, we had this major devastation here in South Florida where the whole building collapsed, and our laws have really changed a lot here. Were there any changes made in Houston after that?
You know, not in the way it has in Florida. You know, Florida now requires that there be much more money held in reserves and much more regulation regarding maintenance and repair of these buildings. Texas hasn't caught up to that yet, but while our legislature hasn't really caught up, I think they will. The insurance companies have sure been paying attention, and that's where we're seeing some big impacts here. Not just because of situation in Florida, but here we've had successive weather events in Texas, primarily not just the hurricanes. We're generally prepared for hurricanes, but especially here along the Gulf Coast, we've had a couple years of hard freezes that have been devastating to properties through pipes bursting and flooding. You know, homes in Texas aren't built the way that homes in cold environments are. And so as a result, particularly in condominiums where a burst pipe is so expensive to deal with because the condo is responsible for so much of the repair, we've seen insurance premiums skyrocket. And we've seen insurers take a very hard look at the properties that they're being asked to insure and requiring that upgrades and repairs be made. So while we haven't seen what's happened in Florida, we are seeing really spiked increases in costs due to the insurance companies. And this is creating a lot of opportunities for us to talk to owners about what it is and what it means to live in a condo. We get calls every week from a homeowner who's looking for representation because they're convinced that their condo board is charging them way too much and they don't think it's right or legal. But when you dig in, what you find is that their insurance premium for the condominium went from $40,000 a year to $140,000 a year overnight, really. And as a result, if you've got 100 condominiums, you've got to come up with a way to pay for that. And that's an expense. So we're seeing these insurers kind of drive better and increased maintenance and oversight of our condominiums in Texas.
Shannon, what's the difference between a board meeting and a member meeting?
Oh, sure. We get this a lot from our boards. So the members have pretty limited voting rights in an HOA for the most part. It's kind of like how we as Americans have pretty limited voting rights when it comes to our leadership. We vote for our leaders and then our leaders go and make the day-to-day decisions for how the country is run. It's the same thing in your HOA. It's a mini government. So members have the right to vote for their representatives, and then they have the right to vote to change their governing documents, much as we have the right to vote to amend the Constitution. But outside of that, there's not a whole lot you really get to vote for. And so a member meeting will be held once a year for the purpose of electing members to the board of directors. And if you are undertaking some effort to amend governing documents, you might have another member meeting during the year to do that. Those are meetings open to the entire membership. All of the members should be having some say in approving minutes and opening the meeting and closing the meeting, making motions. But for the most part, it's just an opportunity to elect your board of directors. Once you have a board, these boards are required to meet and conduct business. And often the bylaws will state that the board is required to meet monthly or quarterly or biannually. But in any event, the board should be meeting regularly. And under Texas law, a lot of those meetings should be open to the members. Not all of them, not everything has to be done openly, but the board should meet and should document all of its decisions. These board meetings, when they're open to the members, are an opportunity for the members to watch their board at work, not an opportunity for the members to come in and run the meeting, to demand that things be put on the agenda, to vote on everything that comes up for the board to decide. It's really an opportunity to watch your board at work. So again, sort of as if you're turning into C-SPAN and watching Congress at work. Nobody's turning to the audience and saying, okay, what do you guys think? And that's where we have a lot of education work to do with our communities. A lot of members think that a board meeting is their opportunity. And while a lot of our boards will have open forums or have Q&As, at the end of the day, it really is an opportunity for the board to do its business and not an opportunity for members of the community to come in and make demands or wreak havoc, which goes back to where we started with Zoom. In our communities that have a lot of consternation or a couple of members that just love to sow chaos, Zoom can be very, very helpful in that regard to cut that down.
Here's from a new HOA board member. Thank you for distinguishing HOA when you write your letters. They want to know about fining people who break the rules. How do they do that?
Sure. So if you're a condo, you will generally have the statutory right to fine. Condos is a very different way of communal living. And in that regard, you can set up rules, regulations, and issue fines for their infraction. This comes up more often in our subdivisions. For a lot of years, there was an open question whether the power to issue fines was an inherent power of a board of directors. Under some recent changes to the law, it seems as though the legislature thinks no, that the governing documents, and particularly the declaration, needs to grant the power to fine to a board. If the board has that power, then it has to have a written fine policy and a schedule of fines that's recorded with the county and distributed to the members so members understand what they could be facing. And then for most infractions, the board has to provide a very special letter that provides notice and an opportunity to cure. So if somebody, say, is seen on camera not picking up dog waste on a common area, and that's something for which a fine can be issued, a letter will go out that says, hey, you can't do this. And if you don't correct this behavior, then you're going to get fined. And you have 30 days to request a meeting with the board of directors to discuss and attempt to resolve your infraction. At that point, if the infraction doesn't resolve, a fine can be assessed. And if the infraction occurs again over the next 6 months, you don't have to send another letter, you can just fine. In certain circumstances where there's an emergent issue, a health or safety infraction, or a infraction that's not capable of repetition, for example, somebody has a garage sale and that's prohibited by the governing documents, a fine can be issued immediately, in which case the HOA is obligated to send a letter that explains why it has been issued and to advise that that has been. But the important thing is, do you have the power to fine? And if you do you have a compliant policy on file with the county?
Shannon, I think I've got 25 more questions. This is easily be an hour show. Tell people how they can reach you, Shannon.
Absolutely. We're on the internet at shannonlanglaw.com. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we'll answer your calls. If you give us a call, we're at 832-479-9400. If you get our voicemail, it means that we're on every single line, but we will call you right back. What's important to us, like I said, is that nobody has a difficult time reaching us. I mean, that doesn't mean we can always help. We get calls from homeowners and we represent their communities. So we have to tell them we're conflicted. We can't talk to them, but we will at least give them that answer and not leave them in, voicemail forever or on hold. So we welcome calls and we look forward to talking to people in the community all the time.
Well, the good thing is Shannon will be back in with us next month. Shannon, love doing the show with you. You're a world of information and we are so lucky to have you. We will see you next month.
Perfect. Thanks, Steve. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Shannon. It's Lang and Associates. That's it for us today. We'll be back in with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.